opportunity. This is our, thank you, Darlene, for starting the recording. I should have warned you. This is our open solicitation currently for letters of intent and pre-proposals for the NASA EPSCoR basic research funding opportunity. I just want to point out the staff that are here. So joining us are Darlene Aranda, who's our one of our program administrators, also Karina Seha, who's one of our other program administrators, and then Marcy Jackson, who is the director of the NSHE EPSCoR office. So they're going to help me field the questions at the end. I'm going to speak for hopefully not more than 20 or 30 minutes. I'm just going to quickly go over the solicitation and try to hit the key points of the solicitation, and then we'll open it up for questions. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm just going to share my full screen here. So I always start off, this is going to be a little harder than usual because I'm using my laptop instead of my computer where I have more real estate, but okay. So I usually start off with our website. So if you just type into, this is where you find all of our funding opportunities through Nevada Space Grant and Nevada EPSCoR, NASA EPSCoR. And if you just type Nevada NASA programs into Google, this should be the first hit on the list. And so this is our website. And if you go to funding opportunities, that takes you to our current open opportunities. And at the top, you'll see the opportunities for students. And then if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see the opportunities for faculty. And at the moment, the main one that we have open is this basic research NOFO opportunity that we're talking about today. So if you click where it says learn more about this opportunity, that takes you to the details for this program. And there's a couple of different links here where you can download the actual solicitation. So you can see download solicitation here at the top. And if you scroll down, there's also a link down here where it says solicitation. That's the PDF file that has the actual detailed instructions for applying for this program.
I'm pretty sure at some point the floaty that we're making was going to turn.
And you can mute your mic. There you go. Thank you. So I'm going to switch over to that PDF file. So here is that PDF file with the details of the solicitation. The key deadlines are listed here. We ask for letters of intent, which are due next Monday. And I understand that timeline's pretty tight. But the requirements for the letter of intent are pretty short and easy, basically just a paragraph and some names and contacts. And we'll talk about those details in a minute. And then the full deadline for the full pre-proposals is due August 28th. And that's a slightly longer technical document. And again, we'll talk about the details for that in a moment. Let me, I forgot to mention, if I go back to the website, this is where you will actually submit the letter of intent and the pre-proposal by those deadlines. So you'll see right now the link for the letter of intent, the first step in the process. There's a live link there where you can upload your letter of intent, and then I presume we will, here, continue to submit pre-proposals. So there's a link there to submit the pre-proposals. And this is standard for all of our programs that we ask that you, typically there's maybe some questions that the web form asks you to fill out, and then there's a place to upload a PDF file with your documents. So let me go back to the solicitation. So here's an introduction here. The basic research program is a NASA EPSCoR program. This is a program to fund research in a topic of strategic interest and importance to NASA. And we'll talk about what that means in a moment, but basically any sort of basic research, be it earth science, engineering, space technology development, anything that is a strategic area of interest to NASA, typically we can fund through this program. The catch is that each EPSCoR state, of which there are 28, I think, in NASA EPSCoR, each EPSCoR jurisdiction is only allowed to submit one proposal. And these proposals come with $750,000 in federal funding from NASA. And then the state of Nevada kicks in another $125,000 from the state special project match account.
Per year.
I'm sorry?
It's 375 over the course of the period.
Sorry, thank you for the clarification. 375. So I believe the total amount comes to 1.125. I think that's where I got the 125. And these are for 3-year projects. And since we're only allowed to submit one proposal from the state of Nevada, this letter of intent and pre-proposal process is the process by which I perform a down selection, a peer-reviewed down selection, to select from amongst those pre-proposals the one team that gets invited to submit a full proposal to NASA. And that full proposal will be due in January. So the details are here. We expect that the projects will establish a collaborative research activity with a NASA center. So we ask that in your letter of intent and your pre-proposal, you articulate and specify a collaborative relationship with a subject matter expert at a NASA center. That can be, doesn't have to necessarily be a civil servant at a NASA center. It could be a contractor at a NASA center. But somebody who has a sort of internal connection to NASA, and that helps meet our goal of establishing closer connections between Nevada researchers and NASA subject matter experts. We also ask that these projects be a collaboration amongst 3 or more NSHE institutions. And that's a way of ensuring that the NASA EPSCoR dollars benefit the NSHE system in a more comprehensive manner and don't get too concentrated on any one campus in the NSHE system. If you have any questions or concerns about either of those collaborative requirements, feel free to reach out to me. I can help discuss with you potential strategies for meeting the collaborative obligation, or if you don't have close connections in NASA, I can either exploit my own network within NASA or reach out to other folks that I know in Nevada who have connections to NASA, and we can help you establish a connection to a NASA subject matter expert if you're struggling with that element. I just ask that you reach out to me early so we can work on that. And ultimately, the goal of this program is to build a team at NASA, in Nevada, that are more competitive to compete for NASA research funds in open calls for NASA research or other research opportunities in the federal government. And that's essentially the core purpose of EPSCoR, is to build competitiveness for open competition for research grants in Nevada. So you can see some further articulation of those goals here. All of our solicitations, this is important to note, please don't just open this PDF file in your browser. Be sure to download it and open it in Adobe Acrobat, because we use this convention of attaching supplementary files using the attachment feature in PDF files. And so the way you access that in Acrobat is you click this little paperclip here. And if you open that paperclip, you'll see that there's a bunch of files that are attached here. And amongst those are a cover sheet and budget templates for the pre-proposal, because we do ask you to prepare a budget for the pre-proposals. There is a copy of the, here, this EONS 2024. This is a copy of last year's solicitation for the basic research program. We don't have the updated one, but we will make the updated one for the next year available as soon as it becomes available to us. There's NASA strategic plan document. There's a guidebook for proposers here. That's this document. There's the Governor's Office of Economic Development statewide plan, and the NSHE Science and Technology Plan. And we include all of these supporting documents with these strategic plans, because we do ask that your pre-proposal articulate how your project meets a strategic goal or strategic mission of NASA's. And we also ask that you articulate how your project contributes to the strategic plan for economic development or science and technology development in the state of Nevada. And those are things that NASA wants to see in your full proposal when you submit your full proposal to NASA. So that's not just a goal of ours. It's a parallel goal of this program, that these projects sort of meet jurisdictional goals, that is, goals within Nevada to build capacity in Nevada for technology development and research capacity. Scrolling down, eligibility. Faculty at any NSHE institution are eligible to apply. Particularly, we encourage early career faculty. The only restriction is that faculty who are a PI or a co-PI on a current national NASA EPSCoR project, basic research opportunity project, so a similar project now, are not eligible to apply while that project is ongoing. And if you have questions about that eligibility, again, please reach out to us right away, and we can talk about it and make an individual determination if there's some concern about whether or not you meet that eligibility requirement or not. Here is the funding information, which we already talked about. $750,000 in federal funds with matching funds from the state of Nevada of $375,000. There's some details here about the obligations should you actually be the team invited to submit the full proposal and you win the award. There's reporting requirements, annual reporting requirements to NASA, and that's something that we work with you on. So if those reports get submitted through the EPSCoR office, through our team, but we need the technical information from the funded team, and so we work with you on the development, and there's templates for all that, and we provide technical support for all of that. Okay, so here's the details for this solicitation. It begins with the letter of intent. So I anticipate most of you on the call will submit a letter of intent. Here are the details. So we need to know who the lead PI is and who the co-PIs are. So again, these we ask that these be collaborative amongst 3 NSHE institutions. So typically the co-PIs are individuals from the other 2 institutions, at least at a minimum. A working title for your pre-proposal, we won't hold you to it. You can submit a pre-proposal with a slightly different title if the title of your project evolves through the process of working out the details. We ask for some keywords And then the meat of the letter of intent is basically just a brief abstract, which gives us a technical, a sort of brief technical overview of what your project is going to be proposing to do. It's probably also a good idea, if you can, to articulate in that abstract in a sentence or two how your project meets a strategic goal or a mission objective of a NASA mission or a NASA strategic goal, and also maybe a sentence or so about how you're contributing to the state's science and technology plan or the governor's economic development plan. So be thinking about those early. Again, it's a 300-word maximum, so I don't expect you to, elaborate deeply on those two topics. But a sentence or two would be good if you can fit that in. Very important for me is we ask for, at minimum, 3 names of technical experts who you believe are capable of providing a good technical review of your pre-proposal. And this is crucial because this is the hardest part of my job, is lining up peer reviewers to provide peer review of all of the pre-proposals that we get. And so typically the way we operate that peer review is we send each pre-proposal out to a technical expert in the topic of that pre-proposal and get a technical review of that proposal. We also send all of the pre-proposals out to at least one person who reads all of them and provides a comparative peer review. That's at a minimum. We'll get multiple reviews if possible. But as I noted, this is the hardest part of all, particularly finding people to do these technical reviews. So we ask that you provide a minimum of 3 names of experts in the field. Please adhere to these conflict of interest rules. So don't provide us a name of your PhD advisor. Don't give us a name of one of your former PhD students who's now a researcher somewhere. Don't give us names of recent co-authors or collaborators on projects, or anybody that you're a co-editor with on a volume or some editorial board. Those are the standard conflict of interest rules that the agencies apply. And please understand that the peer reviewers do not need to be NSHE folks. These can be any technical expert, national or international, who you know is qualified to assess the technical content of your peer review. So don't just give me names of people that you know in NSHE. Give me names of people who you believe are truly technically expert in the topic area of your pre-proposal, so we can get a good technical review. 3 names minimum. Give me more if you can. It's not uncommon for me to get 4 or 5 names, and that's really helpful because when I reach out to external folks for peer review, I don't get replies from everybody. So sometimes I can run into some difficulty getting even one of those people to agree to do a peer review. So the more names you can provide, the better it is for me, and the easier it's going to be for me to get a good solid peer review of your pre-proposal. And then we also ask that you provide us with the name of the authorizing organizational representative. So that's the person in the business office in your department who is the person who submits proposals on behalf of the faculty in your department. So that's all we require for the letter of intent. Again, those are due August 11th, so that deadline's coming up quickly. I suggest, if you haven't already, get started on lining up your co-investigators at other NSHE institutions so you can meet that 3-campus collaborative obligation. But again, the writing for the letter of intent is not, it's not a big obligation. It's just a minimum 300 or maximum 300 word abstract, and then this supporting information. The more comprehensive document is the pre-proposal. So once you get done submitting your letter of intent, I encourage you to get started right away as best you can on the pre-proposal. The pre-proposal has a number of elements, including a budget, which is probably the part that takes the longest to coordinate, because we do need budgets in the template provided in the attachments, and we need that budget signed by the representatives in each of the departments of the campuses that are collaborating on the project. So you need to get started on that part of it early. There is a cover page. There's actually a cover page form that's here in the attachments. So you want to fill that out and include that at the front of the PDF document that so you're going to combine all of these elements into a single PDF file for upload for your pre-proposal. At the front will be that cover page, so please fill that out. Project description is the meat of your pre-proposal. This is limited to not more than 5 pages for the technical description. We ask for a summary of the project, not more than 1 page, and that counts in the 5-page limit. So a short abstract. And then the remaining 4 pages will include project goals and the research objectives. So describe the project, the technical goals, the tasks and the methods that you're going to apply to achieve the goals of the project. We encourage you to employ this model of using SMART goals and SMART objectives, and there's actually a guide document here, and this is something that the EPSCoR program nationally has emphasized. And SMART is just an acronym for creating specific and measurable goals, not just sort of abstract and vague goals for a project, but goals that you can actually reduce to some measurable outcome at the end of your project. A timeline, a timetable for the project. So in what order and in what timeline do you expect to achieve the tasks outlined in your pre-proposal? And then be sure to include a description of the outcomes. So in many cases, this is academic publications and peer-reviewed journals, but it might not be limited to just that. If it's a basic science project, the main outcome may be publications, but if it's more of an engineering project, that may include patents, licenses for technology, intellectual property, new hardware, software, and in the course of the project, you may also create some new content for courses in your department. If that's appropriate, it's not a requirement, but if that's appropriate, you'll want to list that as an added benefit of your project. And then really the goal of this program, as we noted at the top, the ultimate goal of EPSCoR programs is to increase competitiveness. So we want you to articulate a plan for how, upon completion of this project, you believe you'll be better prepared for writing proposals to other non-EPSCoR programs to sustain funding for the research topic of your project. Please also include a plan for including undergraduate or graduate students or postdoctoral fellows. So if you're going to include those as a team, please articulate that explicitly. And maybe say a few words about mentoring plans for those. That doesn't count towards your 5-page max, so that's another, it could be up to a page maximum for that. And then a description of how the project will contribute to Nevada's Science and Technology Plan or the State of Nevada's Economic Development Plan. And then also how the project relates to the NASA EPSCoR plan. And if you go to this appendix, this EONS appendix, so this is EONS is the omnibus solicitation for programs, including the EPSCoR program. And if you look in that document, it includes a long sort of description of NASA's missions, NASA's strategic areas of focus for each of the NASA centers. There's a lot of information in there about topics that are of particular interest to NASA. So we ask that you articulate how your project relates to these strategic areas of interest of NASA. There's a caveat to this, which is that we are including the information that we have right now. NASA is in a moment of reorganization. There is a desire amongst the NASA leadership to focus its research programs perhaps on a more narrower set of goals. It's worth pointing out that Congress has articulated a different vision than the NASA leadership, and there's an active conflict at the moment between those. And we have, in our office, no idea how that's going to shake out. And so we are in an unusual moment in NASA's history, which makes it a little bit difficult to determine what exactly will be NASA's strategic areas of focus in the coming years, because Congress and the administration need to come to an agreement themselves on that. And so we are providing you with the best information that we have on hand. That information is subject to change. It may be the case that between now and January, there may be further guidance from NASA on topics of strategic focus, and we're just going to have to adapt to that as we learn. There's really nothing that we can do without any further guidance from NASA on how that will evolve. In your pre-proposal,
Eric,
you'll want to, yeah.
Eric, there's a question in the chat that you may want to look at.
Okay, thank you for that.
The first one is just a clarification that we can take care of, but there was one that was just put in.
Let's see. Sorry, I'm working on my laptop, so I'm not even sure how I can find the chat.
Okay, we can read it to you. While
I don't see a
acknowledging the
tab.
uncertainty, can you summarize the two bounds between NASA leadership and Congress?
Oh, probably not adequately, because I don't know that it has been reduced to specific missions and goals. The White House has articulated a approximately 50% cut to the funding, the budgets for Earth and space science in particular. So probably the basic science related to Earth and space science are the areas where the administration, the White House, and their representatives in the NASA leadership see the biggest reduction in scope. It's the Senate, their markup of the president's budget request mostly restores all of the science budgets. The House has cuts to the science budget, but smaller cuts. On the engineering side, the White House and the leadership at NASA, their representatives in the leadership of NASA are articulating a desire to see a particular focus on the Artemis mission and related activities related to the mission to send manned missions to the moon and to Mars. So those sorts of engineering projects related to manned space flight are probably not on the chopping block. But I don't think any of this is concrete. In thinking about how to address this, we have to go basically with the documents that we have on hand. So the documents that are attached here, which include a sort of broader reflection of NASA's interests and strategic goals, representative of budgets for the past couple of years. We may need to engage the RAC, the Research Affairs Council. That's the vice presidents for research at the three research institutions, DRI, UNR, and UNLV. And it's worth noting that when I make a recommendation after getting all the pre-proposals peer reviewed, I make a recommendation to the RAC, and I get approval from them before I make a final selection on who gets invited to submit that full proposal to NASA. So in the event that information from NASA changes, we may have to engage with the RAC for further guidance on that. Hans, you want to?
Yeah, Eric, NASA normally works like a clockwork. I get roses on Valentine's Day, and this year the clockwork is kind of delayed. Yeah. And the number of funding opportunities has greatly gone down. For example, last year, Rose's Earth Sciences had 60 opportunities. This year it has 10.
Yeah.
So do you have how's your confidence level that this EPSCoR call will come out?
That's a good question.
Eric, I just popped in the chat because I got something from the foundation this morning.
Oh, okay.
That both House and Senate bills fund NASA EPSCoR program at 26 million or level. So that's looking positive.
Yeah,
wonderful.
I think we actually just had our proposal that was submitted last January was just selected for funding a couple of weeks ago. The EPSCoR office is pushing funding out as quickly as they can right now. As Marcy noted, both houses of Congress in their markups have EPSCoR fully funded at the same level as last year. It is worth noting that the president's budget request does zero out the Office of STEM Engagement, which funds NASA, EPSCoR, and Space Grant. So there is still a disagreement there between Congress and the White House. And I think all of us that are in the NASA community are basically kind of in limbo until Congress and the White House battle it out. And I think that was reflected in what you saw in the Rose's omnibus call for research in Earth and space sciences, that that's one of the places where you're seeing that conflict playing out. Ian, you're muted.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Out of the 28 proposals from the 28 EPSCoR states, how many were funded?
They initially funded 14, and then they rearranged funds so that they could fund a 15th. So 15 out of, I believe, 28. So
and you would say that probably that would be approximately the same for this year as well.
I believe so. I think the 14 number may be reflective of what they typically have budgeted. You might look in this, the EONS appendix that's attached here. Usually NASA's solicitations include an estimated number of selections. So you might double check me there.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what I don't recall exactly what it says there.
I have several other questions regarding the collaborations, and probably you will have a question and answer
Yeah,
session.
so let me finish going through the solicitation, and then we'll I'm almost done. But I did want to touch on the budget part, because this, as I noted earlier, needs to be included in your pre-proposal, and that is typically one of the more complicated aspects of preparing the pre-proposal, because we need budgets signed from each of the partner NSHE institutions. So there are details here. Let me defer to Marcy or Karina. Are there any details related to the budget that we want to emphasize here?
Just we want to make sure the amount that we're talking about that will be handled as a management includes our staff and Eric's for their time helping manage the project. That is not included within the budget. So you are going to submit. We will manage those as the prime awardee. So what you have to work with your 3 partners who are working on this project is the amounts that are in this box.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
And you do need to work through your sponsor programs or business offices. You need to make sure that you are meeting the deadlines for your institution. So please make sure if you have a 3-day or a 5-day deadline for them to look at these things, that you are following those procedures.
And indirect is applied to the federal funds, but not the state cost share funds, correct?
Correct.
Okay. If there are more questions about the budget, you can bring those up in the Q&A session. And then there are these additional elements of your pre-proposals, which don't count towards the page limits discussed previously. Those could include the references cited in the technical part of your pre-proposal. We do ask for biographical or CVs essentially for the PI and the co-PIs or any other named partners in the project. Those have to be on the new NASA BioSketch template, which is also included. That's this item here in the attachments, which is an onerous template, and I apologize for that, but that's what NASA is requiring now. We also ask for a NASA funding history summary for the science PI, limited to 1 page. A list of prior projects funded by NASA, either EPSCoR or I think non-EPSCoR, also NASA funded projects in your past. And then facilities or other resources. So if your proposed project requires some specific laboratory equipment or laboratory facilities in order to be successful, then please include an articulation of those. Letters of intent must be submitted no later than 5 p.m. So all of our deadlines tend to be close of business deadlines on the due date. So 5 p.m. Pacific time, August 11, using the link. The link's copied here, but also, as we noted, there's links on the webpage to the submission form. And then the pre-proposals by no later than 5 p.m. Pacific time on August 28th. Please upload all the elements that we just discussed as a single PDF file, and there's actually a specification here for the file name. So please save your compiled PDF file using this file name convention here, so that we can keep all of them organized. Incomplete submissions will not be reviewed. Here's some more details of the technical review. As I noted, we get the pre-proposals reviewed through a peer review process. And I'll just emphasize again, the names that you provide for those technical reviewers is incredibly valuable to me. I will be, prior to the pre-proposal deadline, I will be reaching out to those people to try to line up those technical reviewers in advance of your submission to streamline the review process. So please include as many names as you can think of potential technical reviewers to maximize the chance that I can do that successfully and in a timely manner. There are review criteria listed here, and these are supplied to the peer reviewers in the form that we provide them. And we get comments from the peer reviewers as well, and we provide those comments in an anonymized fashion back to you. So if you are not the team selected to provide a full proposal, and if you are, either way, you'll get whatever feedback we get from our reviewers, we will pass on anonymized to you. We're going to try to do this as quickly as possible in September or by early October at the latest. Again, your full proposal, the team that is selected to build a full proposal will have a due date in January for the full proposal. Our contact information is here. Again, as I've noted throughout, I'm happy to entertain any questions. I'm going to open it up for questions right now. But even after this session, if something occurs to you that you have a question about, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'll answer the questions if I can. If they're budgetary questions, I may refer them to Karina and Marcy for just to be sure I don't mess it up. But we are happy to answer any questions prior to the deadlines. And the last thing I'll say is please initiate your submission. Don't wait until 4:45 on the deadline to initiate your submission. We do occasionally have technical issues with the submission system. It has happened in the past. So please don't wait until the last minute and then run into a technical issue. Please try to upload your proposal early, and if you run into technical concerns, please reach out to us. We can accept your submission by email, but we can't accept your submission by email after the deadline. So, and when you do submit through the website, you do get a confirmation that your submission was received. So again, do that early, get that confirmation before the 5 p.m. deadline on the deadline day. And if you don't, please reach out to us ahead of the 5 p.m. deadline. Again, we can accept proposals by email if you're unsure about the success of the online submission, but we cannot accept them after the 5 p.m. deadline in order to ensure fairness of the process. With that, I'll open it up to questions. Hans, is your just a lingering raised hand?
Just the lingering, sorry.
Okay. Ion, you want to go?
Yeah. You talked about the technical reviewers that needs the name of those who needs to be submitted during, for the letter of intent as well. So I was wondering, like, do they have to be from academic institutions, or they can be from scientists from private companies as well?
They can be anybody who you believe is technically qualified to review. We have frequently used NASA scientists, either civil servant scientists or contractors who work at a NASA center are often amongst the names. They can be academics from any university or institute, even an industry person, if you believe they're qualified to review the proposal.
My other questions include the budgetary side of things. So the 2:1 match, the $375,000 that was mentioned in the solicitation, it kind of, from what I understood, is that is something that the Nevada EPSCoR office will match. Is there a requirement for match from the individual institutes as well?
No, there is not. You're correct that 375 in match comes from the state project match fund. That's money that the legislature provides to Marcy's EPSCoR office for them to distribute in support of research programs like this. That's the purpose
So
of this.
it's varied some years because of, depends on what our budget is that comes in from the state legislature. So we do have the wording in the solicitation that should there be an issue, we would come back to the institutions. And there have been times where we've asked for unrecovered F&A to be part of the match on those state program dollars. At this moment in time, it looks like for this year's project, I would be able to support the full amount with cost share, cash cost share.
Okay. Do you, for the collaborative approach, I really appreciate, Eric, you putting me in touch with some of the scientists who are working in this field. But I also wondered, like, if there was a list of potential people who were interested in collaborating for these, because I'm having difficulty with the third institute as well. So I was wondering if there was something, a list or something like that, to whom I could reach out.
Not really. We don't have a list ourselves. I will note that the EPSCoR office maintains a STEM mentor network, which is more about matching students with faculty. But it is a list of faculty that include research interests. Again, the purpose of that list is to match students with faculty for research opportunities for students, but that could be a place to go. The other thing I'll note is that sometimes the collaborations are amongst the three core research institutions, DRI, UNR, UNLV, but it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. We've had projects in the past where maybe two of the research institutes collaborate on laboratory type research, and then they bring in one of the community colleges and have the third institution be implementing some kind of educational program or undergraduate or college student research experience related to the topic. So, I mean, that's another strategy. The third doesn't necessarily have to be three institutes just doing
the research side of
things. Laboratory research. It can include a sort of educational component that gets students involved in the research. Would be another strategy to consider.
Okay. I don't have any questions as of now, but
okay.
I can come back at the late, in the late time.
Okay, great. Thank you. Dave, do you want to go?
Yeah, just a quick question about partnership with DRI. If we have a longstanding collaboration with some people on the workforce development side of DRI, the STEM outreach side of DRI, are they acceptable collaborators to include that NG institution?
Yes. I don't think there's any reason that wouldn't be the case.
Okay. And then the other question I've got, and I'm sorry if you answered this before, but the match side of things, is there F&A attached to that match, or is that F&A free?
It's F&A free.
Sweet. Cool.
Monica?
Hi, everyone. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. So, sorry, I'm going to go back to this question of the matching, because I just want to understand, and I appreciate, Marcy, I think you said how you are in good shape for the upcoming year, but this will come up like 3 years, right, of support for the cost sharing that will be necessary. And I just want to understand what it says that if there is not sufficient funds, from the state, that then the institutions will have to kick in, and it's saying even here like 2 to 1. So if you can comment a little bit more, I would just appreciate.
We've never had to have an institution to come up with cash match.
Okay.
In years where our budget has been a little bit tighter, we have asked for unrecovered F&A to be part of the match that we provide back to NASA. So at this point in time, we are projecting that the entire $125,000 for each year will be cash match. I feel pretty confident of that, but then, you know, you could have a new biennium come in and we may have to make some adjustments.
Okay. And I'm not sure what institutions you're affiliated with, but I serve here as Associate Dean for Research at UNLV, and you're more than welcome to reach out for me for potential, honestly, collaborations to find teams and so on for everyone.
Yeah, sure.
We have here the Nevada Center for Astrophysics, and I can see some of my faculty even here on this call too.
Great. Thank you for that. Henry, I think I skipped over you in the queue. I apologize for that. Go ahead, Henry.
No problem. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick today. I had two sort of budgetary questions. One has to do with whether there's any restriction on foreign travels, because I'm contemplating a proposal where there's significant amount of foreign travels in another country, not an export control sensitive country, but outside the United States.
That is a good question.
Because I know that the other smaller EPSCoR grants don't permit foreign travels, I think. Whether that applies to this one as well.
I may have to follow up with you. I don't necessarily want to answer that definitively without looking at least at what the language was in last year's solicitation. I mean, the standard thing with NASA is that foreign travel is allowed as long as it's in the budget that is approved by the program manager. And even in the past, I've had research grants with NASA where I didn't have any foreign travel, but then I decided to go to a conference internationally and I wrote to the program manager and got approval. But EPSCoR may have some specific. Marcy?
There's some wording from the EONs that I can drop in the chat about that from last year. And of course, Henry, like we said, this is from last year. So we don't know for sure what will be in this year's solicitation, but they did have a limit of $3,000 a trip for up to 2 separate trips.
Does this apply to this one as well?
Well,
okay.
It
that's what we would assume.
Yeah, it applied to this program last year. So,
okay.
We don't have the new, we don't have this year's solicitation yet, so we don't know exactly what language is going to be in there. But if they follow the same language, which I would anticipate for these kinds of details, they probably will.
So a second question, I think that might, depending on the situation with the foreign travel, might be relevant. So between letter of intent, which is coming up very quickly, and I don't know how, anyway, it's unusual for pre-proposal to have a signed, not only a budget, but a signed budget. I think I asked you, I don't remember asking you about this before. The rationale of asking for a signed budget with a pre-proposal. But that aside, do you allow some adjustment between the letter of intent and by the time and the pre-proposal submission for minor adjustment with the budget? But again, will be signed, of course.
Yeah, the requirement to include the budgets in the pre-proposal is the way this program has always been run. So that's consistent with how it's always been done. And I think it's a way of ensuring that the project that gets selected is truly viable in the sense that it's not only technically feasible, but budgetarily feasible as well. and we get signatures so that the institution is putting its stamp on there that it's reviewed the budget and agrees that the right F&A percentages are included and all of that. Marcy, do you want to?
Yeah, so there's
expand on
no requirements on anything budget related for the letter of intent that's due next week. We do have the full proposal for the pre-proposal. We do require that to ensure that your institution is aware of this, because we will go very quickly once someone is selected. They will have generally only 2 months or so to finish up their full proposal. And so between the time you do your budget for your pre-proposal and the time you do your budget for the final proposal, which we will submit, we do have the ability to make adjustments there. So you've chosen your pre-proposal, your project team has a month or 2 to work on it, and we will refine the budget before it is submitted. So you're not tied to the budget that is in the pre-proposal necessarily. It is to give us an idea that you have thought through all of the items.
Great, thank you.
Dave, do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, are there any citizenship restrictions for either students or faculty participating on the project?
No. The NASA EPSCoR program does not have any citizenship restrictions on any of its programs.
Excellent.
To my
Okay,
knowledge.
cool.
That's only Space Grant does, but the EPSCoR program does not. Any other quote? We're coming up on the hour, so I want to be respectful of everybody's time. We have time for maybe one more question if there's any other questions. If not, then we've timed it just about perfect. Okay. With that then, we'll leave it at there. Thanks everybody for showing up. This was a great turnout. As I sort of anticipated, I think this program is going to be particularly popular this year. Thanks again for attending. And as I noted earlier, any questions that occur to you in the process of developing your letter of intent or your pre-proposal, please don't hesitate to reach out. Our contact information is there in the solicitation, and we're happy to answer any questions. I'm happy to help with partnering if you need help, if I can in any way, or detailed budget questions. We're here to help you through all of those. And with that, we'll end the session. Thank you, everybody.